Hello you fans, Madarans here, and welcome to my top 10 favorite sides against PK Fire. PK Fire, for those who don't know what it stands for, is Phantom Knights plus Burning Abyss, usually using the Speedroid engine, but sometimes could use the Urgent Teleport engine, although this is not as favorable due to the fact that it's now at 2 in the TCG, so most have dropped that. But most you continuously use the Speedroid engine, which is very powerful and one of the best engines you can use at the moment, alongside the Phantom Knight engine and the Burning Abyss engine. But it is a meta deck, and we need to know how to defeat this. I think a lot of you would probably know how to use this, but I'm going to give you my top 10 options that I would use against PK Fire, more or less depending on what deck you are using. So it has more or less something for everyone at this point in time. Most of them will be generic, but some of them lower down on the list will be less generic than others. So without further ado, let's go into this top 10 with Necrovalley. At our number 10, Necrovalley can easily be searched out at the moment with Terraforming or Gravekeeper's Commandant, which makes it a nice searchable side deck card. And the fact that it can nullify the Phantom Knight engine in the graveyard is very good indeed. Essentially, it stops every Phantom Knight card in the graveyard. You can't search out for your Fogblade, you can't special summon them from the grave, you can't search for Silent Boots. It's very good indeed. Not to mention, you stop your opponent's monsters being resurrected from the grave as long as they don't summon themselves. This means Breaksword can't bring back level 4s. Seer can't summon back Dante. Dante can't, I don't believe he can add back either, so that's good as well. The only problem is that Necrovalley can easily be outed, and that's with Breaksword, which can easily just pop itself and Necrovalley and then special summon them back, which is a shame. But if you have enough defense to lock them out of doing that, it can be very good indeed. This will usually see play in Demise decks like Demise Stun, Cleafort Demise, Yosenju Demise, Gravekeeper Demise, obviously. And it's a very good card in that sense. Plus it's a field spell, so it doesn't clog up your back row, which can always be nice indeed. Number 9 is Rivalry of the Warlords. We also have Gozen Match, which is technically the same position here, but Rivalry is a little bit better, mainly because you essentially made their Burning Abyss monsters useless. The only Fiend Exceed monster that they've ever run is Miserytham, I believe it's called, and that can make it sub 3k, and that's about it. Whereas Gozen Match still means your Burning Abyss monsters can turn into a Breaksword and easily out this trap card. You can still do this again in here if you use solely your Phantom Knight engine, but it at least slows them down. It means their Burning Abyss engine is pretty much dead. Their Speedroid engine is very much dead because I don't believe there's many, if any, Machine Exceed monsters they ever play. I think Zenmines is like the best one, and I haven't seen a PK Fire deck use Zenmains. So yeah, Rivalry Warlords is very good. More towards the My Son Again or decks that use the same type more or less consistently, like Raid Raptors for example. You can also use the trap card Magic Deflector to protect this card against Twin Twister, which is the common out to most side deck cards at the moment. Number 8 is Masked Hero Darklaw. Darklaw is not that generic, to be fair. You need a dark deck in order to do this, or a dark engine in order to bring out this boss monster. But Darklaw shuts down your opponent's mill engine, meaning Dante can't run over this. It means when they have to detach, they lose the monsters, and if they try to search with Scam for some reason, then they will lose the card out of their hand, which is very nice indeed. You have to put a lot of investment into destroying Darklaw, depending on what you have access to at the moment. You can easily get it out with Mass Change second by shooting basically your Dark Monster and then bringing this out, as long as it's under level 6, which can be easy. There's also Destiny Heroes and Masked Heroes still running around at the moment, so they can easily have access with this with Mass Change, which is a main deck out, which is always good. You can use this as a good card against the mirror essentially, as you can power up some Dark Lord, beat over something like Breaksword, which is at 2k. It won't be something in the back, or you can have Dark Lord on the board and then have something that beats over the Dante, and you have some good profit there. Number 7 is Majesty's Fiend. I haven't got Vanity's Fiend on this list, mainly because you can more easily out it, to be fair. It's not as... I like it, but you can easily out it with Farfar, and that's not a good idea. Whereas Majesty's Fiend, it can stop Farfar, it can stop Breaksword, it stops it from powering up, it stops Dante from activating, it stops Beatrice. The only main out with this is using Phantom Sword on something that's strong enough to beat over Majesty's Fiend, or using some of your trap cards to negate its effects. Trap cards will usually negate Majesty's Fiend anyway, so that's really not going to make any difference between which one you choose. But Majesty's Fiend's more or less the more usable one. This will be used mostly in Monarch decks, or any decks that don't get killed by Majesty's Fiend or Vanity's Fiend, or in the mirror as well. Mirror is always good to use this since it is a Fiend type. Then on to number 6 and number 5. At number 6 we have Chaos Trap Hole. Chaos Trap Hole is being used quite commonly at this format, mainly because Monarchs are still a threat, and Chaos Trap Hole can negate Edea very easily and stop them gaining any plus from it. So Chaos Trap Hole is a good translatable side that can be used for 2 matchups. And it can negate Dante, it can negate the Beatrice, it will set them off in the graveyard if they have materials underneath them, but Chaos Trap Hole can easily just banish and stop things. Particularly good against Beatrice because they won't be able to use a quick effect or special summon out monster. Then we have Shadow-Imprisoning Mirror. This is very powerful at the moment, mainly because you can lock them out of using their Breaksword. It doesn't stop the Dante, it doesn't stop the Beatrice, which is a bit of an annoyance. It stops them using stuff to out Shadow-Imprisoning Mirror. It stops all the mills from being good, essentially. It shuts down the Phantom Knight engine, it makes Seer, Graf, Farfar, and Calcab in the graveyard useless, or Scam as well. It stops your tour guide, and it stops Breaksword from outing it. The main out I can see would be Twin Twister, so you can again use Magic Deflector to protect this. Shadow-Imprisoning Mirror isn't too good to use in meta decks at the moment, except from Blue Eyes or Mermail, which can easily have access to this because they don't use dark monsters for the most part, except from Dark Matter Dragon. And Chaos Trap Hole is very easily startable in most decks. The only problem is, if it's not running too many traps, it's going to be obvious what is going to be there. Then on to our number 4. It is the Maxx. Maxx is very good and one of the most notorious sides against Burning Abyss in general because they are activating special summons, and Maxx can easily be dropped and you can gain quite a lot of plus. The only problem with Maxx I have is that it doesn't stop the game, it doesn't stop them at all. You're just drawing cards, they can easily OTK you. However, if you put in specific sides to draw into and stop them from OTKing you, it can be very plussing indeed. The particular one for me would be Speed Roymenko, just because it's level 4 and it switches them all to defense mode as well, which can be nice, particularly if it's a big beat stick that you can easily beat over in defense, depending on what they've summoned. If they for some reason summon like Acid Golem, I believe it's got a really weak defense, so you can beat over that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, it can beat over Breaksword that's been powered by Rocky Gloves, which makes it 1000 defense, I believe it's got, or 2000 defense, whereas it will have 3000 attack, so easier to beat over. The only problem is that it will switch Beatrice's defense, which is 2800. Bit of a hard defense to get over. But you've stopped them from OTKing and you've got a lot more cards in your hand, so hopefully you drew into even further sides. You could also put in Veiler, but that wouldn't be as good because Dante's mill is a cost, whereas the only thing you really could hit is either Breaksword or Beatrice. Maxx is very generic in most decks, but it can't really be done in something like the Milestone, which discards that hand. Finally, on to number 3. The Flying Sea. His little brother has returned, and he's very good in this deck. He's a hand trap, so he can be done, and from your turn 1, he can special summon to their board and destroy all the Burning Abyss monsters, because they don't like that Flying Slayer that much, so they just get back into that graveyard. The only problem is it doesn't add the Speed Droid engine. They can still wall up. This Phantom Knight engine can still wall up. And there are easy outs to Flying Sea, unfortunately. And that is Phantom Knight Fogblade, which basically just negates Flying Sea and makes you have a nice defense. Not to mention you can get rid of it at any time you want and gain some plus from that. The other side that I see commonly now is Enemy Controller. Enemy Controller can be used to trigger the Flying Sea in order to take control of one of your monsters. Very good indeed, because they can use that to probably go for OTK by using a card that you gave them. So they don't really minus from that. And they more or less plus, I should say. So Flying Sea can easily be outable, but it can be done from your turn 1, which can be good if you're going second. Now, number 2, one of the cards you'll probably think, which is surprising to be number 2, it is the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries coming out in shining victories, and basically the downfall of PK Fire at the moment. Everyone's thinking this is an auto win that you need to pick up instantly. Right now, I think it's like a 30 quid card in the UK, and it's probably not going to go any lower. Well, just for the meantime, until PK Fire gets hit, but it would be a very good card for later formats. She isn't as translatable as other sides. You can't really side her in against like a Monarch matchup. Even the Exceed Monarch matchup is really not going to be that good, because they have so many Exceed monsters they go into. They don't go into one specific one, but it can be used against something like Draco Pals or even Cosmo. I'm particularly going to be using this against Cosmo, mainly because I can out their Leviair, I can out their Infinity, I can out their Utopic Future, and I'll still have them to basically screw them over with. Lovely. But Ghost Reaper is used to discard and banish all those Dantes, or banish all those Beatrice when Dante gets hit on the ban list, or banish the Utopic Future as their only out to your plays, which can be very good indeed. She is a decent secret rare, but I don't advise paying out so much for it if you have access to the number 1, just because it's cheap, a lot cheaper to basically use. Plus, she's not an auto win. You may think she's an auto win, but they can easily bring something else out. They have a lot of Exceed monsters. Some players I've actually seen going down to 2 Dantes just because of the threat of her, and they can still go off. If they're smart enough, they may even side in the number 1 card to basically bring out a Beatrice through alternative means. You probably now guess what number 1 is at this point. So yes, without further ado, let's go on to the number 1, and that is XYZ Universe. XYZ Universe is a trap card that came out in Primal Origins as a rare, and I believe it got reprinted in MP15. So it hasn't been printed for a while, but it is a very cheap and powerful Exceed card, because you'll be able to basically overlay their 2 Dantes by sending them to the graveyard to bring out something like Samurai Infinity or Stern Knight Constellar Diamond if you like that card against that matchup. I personally don't, just because they will force out your negation and then they'll be able to mill and get over your Constellar Diamond. Whereas Infinity, you can restore the materials. But the best card to summon out of it is the Exceed Coach Lord Ultimate Trainer, because of one thing. It's a 3800 beat stick that can't be targeted by card effects. Burning Abyss have a hard time getting through cards that can't be targeted. They were stumped around the Shadow era when Leo was a possibility, but in this era it's more about the Chaos Lord Ultimate Trainer. It's a very hard out, not to mention it doesn't make their Beatrices alive in the graveyard by special summon out Dante Pilgrim. Whereas it does unfortunately allow you to use the effects of Dante's. It doesn't stop that. You can still get things around it and bring out Utopic Future to get around this. But it's a lot cheaper as an option to go for, and it can be more game winning if they can't get around it and you're able to get rid of their utopic future. But again, none of these cards are auto wins. I don't think there's ever going to be an instant auto win card against PK Fire, just because they are quite adaptable. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please leave a comment below if you thought I missed out on any cards that should have been on this list. I had about 20 or so cards that I could have put on here, and I had to come down to 10. This is all my personal decisions, so they may conflict with your own. Please tell me below in the comments if you think one of these should have been number 1 instead of XYZ Universe. Personally, I think XYZ Universe is better than the Ghost Reaper. And right now, I'm currently siding triple XYZ Universe and 1 Ghost Reaper just because I pulled 1 and might as well use it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, enjoy this one type of content. Please leave your comments below if you've got suggestions for my channel. Thank you for watching. Matt Durant, signing out.